Yeah.
Cool. Boom, boom, boom. Man, another day, another dollar. Wednesday, October 2nd. Can you believe it, Tom? We are already in October. It is the month of Halloween. You've been growing your hair out all year for this very month for that mystery Halloween costume at the end. We'll get to that and more. But what is up, Broncos country? It's Wednesday night, which means it's time for MHI. He's Thomas Hall. I'm Luke Patterson. Tom, how we doing?
Ah, man, sorry about that. Yeah, feeling good in the new place. Trying to get some stuff painted and that kind of stuff before all your junk gets here. So yeah, but feeling good. How about you?
I'm feeling great. The Broncos are 2-2 with a homecoming to the Mile High City. It's Raider week. I hate those guys.
Yeah.
We'll talk about what's going on in the medical room for the Las Vegas Raiders. We'll talk about the good news from practice today over UC. Well, no, it's not UC Health anymore. It's Common Spirit. I'm feeling really good, Tom. If you would have told me that the Broncos were going to win back-to-back road games in Tampa and then against the Jets, and I don't care how ugly it was. I really don't. I wouldn't have believed you, Tom, not after the first 2 weeks of horrible football. Watching the Seattle Seahawks pick apart the Broncos and then the Steelers beating Denver at home. I'm on cloud 9, man. I'm pumped.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it either. That was a huge surprise to me because I thought 2 games on the road against quality opponents too. They would be lucky to get back 1-1, and they come back 2-0 from that stretch. That's crazy. And now I'm buying into this team. I was pessimistic, especially after the first 2 losses. Like how did they end up losing to Pittsburgh after seeing them beat the Bucs and the Jets? It's crazy. But the Vance Joseph defense is a legit defense, man. I am impressed with that, with what he's got going there.
Yeah, the Vance Joseph defense, that's something that you and I, Tom, both last week were like, yeah, we've got one foot on that bus. I'm going to ask you a little later on in the show how good you're feeling about this defense. We're also going to hear from 104.3 The Fan's own Cecil Lammey at 6:30 p.m. Mountain Time. I want to pick his brain about what's going on out there at practice today, what the injury report's looking like, some keys to victory against the Raiders, and trying to figure out what we're going to see with Bo Nix, because it was an ugly game against the Jets, Tom. It was horrible. It was rainy, bad offensive football. If you're a defensive guy, you didn't mind it. Super happy to see the Broncos pass rush continue to dominate. I mean, the sacks and the QB hits, they're starting to become a trend, a consistent thing, and I absolutely love it for the Vance Joseph-led defense. Bo Nix, what can we say about Bo Nix? Well, he helped will his team to 2 victories. Helped. He wasn't the reason, Tom, but he wasn't the reason they lost either, right? I'll take it from a first-round rookie quarterback who's, I don't want to say he's starting to hit his stride, but the guy seems like he's willing to do just about anything to produce in Sean Payton's offense.
Well, number one, he's not taking any sacks, which is great. I mean, offensive line has played pretty well, but he's avoiding the sacks, which is great. Been pretty good with the ball for the most part over the last couple of games. So, that's what you really need. I'm just, and I'm going to ask Cecil about it later too, but at some point they're going to call on him to throw the ball and try and win a game through the air at some point as a rookie. And what's that, is he going to be able to do it? Because so far he hasn't been able to really pass the ball for, it's not just yards, but he hasn't impressed me yet, I guess I should say. They still won 2-2. I'll take wins over, a beautiful passing day any day of the week, but he's going to be called upon at some point, and he's going to have to step up to the challenge. And I'd like to see when that happens and see how he does it.
Boom. This is how David does it, giving us some support over on YouTube. Good evening, Broncos country. Hashtag 10-7. Let's Bo. That's exactly right, David. I'm curious what kind of energy Broncos country is going to get from their Denver Broncos this Sunday as the Las Vegas Raiders come to town. And Tom, I don't have to remind you that the Denver Broncos have never beaten the Las Vegas Raiders ever. That's something that I take exception with. I was at the last game in Denver, December 29th, 2019. The Denver Broncos beat then Oakland Raiders by 1 point. 16-15. It was because Shelby Harris batted down a 2-point conversion attempt from Derek Carr. Drew Lock was the starting quarterback. Philip Lindsay was the starting running back. John Gruden was the head coach, Tom. I mean, it's been that long. The Raiders are currently on an 8-game winning streak against the Denver Broncos. What kind of energy is Broncos country going to have? I want to hear from you in the chat. Are you feeling fired up now that your Broncos squad is coming back to Denver 500? You should be. Or are you nervous that the silver and black have a curse on your Denver Broncos and Bo Nix is going to be the latest victim? Let us know over in the chat. Thank you for firing away, David. And Robot of Doom, I want to get you a shout out. Good evening, fellas. I finally get to catch you guys live. Just like Cortland Sutton caught that Bo Nix touchdown pass. Devontae Adams is out. Denver should dominate this game. Put them Raiders back in their place. Watching over on Twitch. Really, really appreciate that, Robot. Yeah, the news came down just an hour or so ago from Adam Schefter. He kind of knows a thing or two, Tom, that Devontae Adams is not expected to play in Denver. He was officially listed on the injury report with a hamstring. He did not practice. What's going on over there with Devontae Adams? Because something tells me this isn't really about the medical report.
Yeah. I mean, he's unhappy, obviously. It sounds like it's a bit of a mess there. I mean, I think people were all excited about, players were, about Antonio Pierce getting that head coaching job, but it's starting to unravel. And losing definitely causes it to unravel faster. But Devontae Adams feels he's ready to get out of there, and I think they're going to oblige him. I think they're going to try and ship him off somewhere. And we'll see, but he's probably not going to play this week. So that's a telltale sign that they're at least exploring it.
Another question we will ask Cecil Lammey at 6:30. I know he's got contacts all over the league, so we will pick Cecil's brain. Also want to ask about some of those other Raiders on the injury report. Could they potentially miss the game? Who are they and why are they important? We will get into that. Michael Rinquillo firing away from Arizona over on Facebook. Appreciate the support, Mike. Good evening, Thomas and Luke on the Mile High Insiders. Go Bo Broncos. Tom, I was thinking about this today. It's a special week here in Denver, Colorado. Not only is it Raiders week, but it's Throwback week here in the Mile High City as the Denver Broncos get to wear their 1977 throwback threads. They were saving it for a special occasion. These damn Raiders. Do you think the throwback threads add a level to excitement for the players at least? Because the fan base is hyped up, Tom. I'm tweeting at the Broncos today. I don't know if you saw this. You're moving into your new house. You've got a ton of things going on. They're actually giving out wallpapers. Right? They're like, hey, tweet us your favorite number and name, and we'll go ahead and make a wallpaper for you using the 1977 logos. I mean, I know the fans care. This is a special set of colors. It looks amazing. But did the players get excited, or is this just another set of uniforms?
I hope so. I hope they do. I mean, it's a lot of younger players now. So, I mean, who knows, some of them were pretty young when the Broncos were wearing those colors. But the sense of nostalgia, the importance to the franchise that those colors represent, the success that came along with it, as far as all those winning seasons. I know they never won a Super Bowl in those colors, but Orange Crush defense, John Elway years, it means something. So I hope it means something to the players. Whether or not it makes them play better or not, I don't know, but hopefully it hypes them up and gets them ready, just, feeling that, the old school vintage winning ways would be, it'd be great to get a win against the Raiders in those uniforms.
Well, and I love the old Deion Sanders line, right? You look good, you feel good, you play good. And speaking of good, guys, everybody, this episode is brought to you by Manscaped, the global leader in men's lifestyle and grooming. Every man knows the unbeatable feeling of a fresh barbershop shave. Now, what if I told you that you no longer have to wait weeks or even months between appointments to experience it?
Introducing Manscaped's newest innovation, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver, the game-changing tool that brings the luxury of professional shave right into your home. Whether you're after the daily, silky smooth finish or prefer to maintain a rugged 5 o'clock shadow, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver is your go-to precision and style every time. Head over to manscaped.com and join the over 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using Huddle, code Huddle, for 20% off plus free shipping.
Boom. Get the Chairman Pro today. Experience a shave that is as smooth as you deserve. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code HUDDLE at manscaped.com. Again, that's 20% off and free shipping with the code HUDDLE at manscaped.com. Tom, I'm looking at the Broncos injury report here on Wednesday, October 2nd, and I'm feeling pretty good. Feeling really good. And speaking of injuries, man, it's second straight start at right tackle. Your guy, Alex Palczewski, Robert Saleh's New York Jets defense, no sacks. Talk to me.
He is killing it, man. It's funny because back when he was undrafted free agent, I was like, this guy's going to make the team. He's going to be that guy that makes the team. And back then it was because he had some experience in the Big Ten. I thought, that's primed to do it. They didn't have any real depth, so I was pretty confident. But the more I watched him through camp that year, stuff, I was like, this guy can play. And now he's got his chance, and he's out there doing a great job, fantastic job. Developed a little bit, waiting to get his shot, and there he is, man. I'm impressed. He's not. I think that he didn't get a shot because he had shorter arms than people are love to see in an offensive tackle. But his experience and technique, I think, makes up for it. So it's great to see that that prediction actually come farther to the truth than I'd even expected. So.
Yeah, well, and he's using his wrestling background to maul these guys too. I don't mind that as long as we're not getting called for it in terms of the holding, and as long as we're not getting Bo Nix killed, I'm here for all of it. Monica weighed in over on YouTube. Thank you for joining MHI, Monica. October is Halloween season. Let's spook the Raiders. I absolutely love that. Let's spook the Raiders. I can remember growing up, Tom, when the Raiders were sort of a big deal, right? They were more relevant than they had been in years past. But looking at all those characters in the black hole, where it's like Halloween every single day, we're normal people here in Broncos country where we celebrate it, maybe for the month, for some of us a couple weeks, for others just the day. But man, if you're the Las Vegas Raiders, you're not feeling good about coming to Denver, Colorado. You have. The last 8 games have gone in your favor. Sean Payton lost a devastating overtime game, 17-16. Last year here in Denver to the Las Vegas Raiders. Tom, what does Raider Week mean to Sean Payton?
God, I hope it means a lot, man. I know he kind of probably downplays it a little, but I mean, he's lost 2 to them, so that's extended that streak. It's got to be weighing on him to actually break that streak. So I think he understands the nostalgia. I mean, he's an old school coach. He's been around for a long time. He may not bring it up, or he may not make a big deal of it, but I think deep down he has a huge desire to beat this team because it's been a huge rivalry, and he's a Denver Bronco now. He's the coach of the Denver Broncos. He needs to buy into that rivalry and the nostalgia of the team.
Well, and speaking of costumes and Halloween, which Denver Broncos squad are we going to get? I mean, right? We want to spook the Raiders. Well, what if it's like the Scooby-Doo meme, right? If you're taking the head off the ghost and it's just the same old guy, the suspect that you usually think it is. Yeah, we don't want that. And the Denver Broncos need to win, especially at home. They have not won at home yet. They got embarrassed by the Steelers. How do I know? I was there and I left early. That's how I know. And it ruined our MHH meet and greet. Mike Reno weighing in over on Facebook. Thomas talking positive. What? I love the pod. It's been a minute, but I'm here. Mike weighing in on Facebook. Yeah, Mike, Tom and I are both shocked. We're not Vance Joseph guys, as you know, but give credit where credit is due. The Broncos defense is absolutely humming. They're ranked 2nd in total defense, Tom, as you know, and 3rd in scoring. What's the secret here? What's the big difference? I mean, last year, this time we were getting 70 hung on us by the Dolphins, who can't seem to score a point anymore these days. But all of a sudden the Broncos are trending elite status, upper echelon in the NFL.
Yeah, and that's why I'm positive. I mean, as you know, I wasn't a big fan of Vance Joseph when he was hired. I didn't think that he had done a great job, but here he is. He's proven me wrong, and that makes me excited because I'm a Broncos fan at heart, and I want to see them win. So I'm excited about the defense. The pressure that they're getting is incredible, and they've kind of figured out how to stop the run too. That was their weakness the first couple weeks of the year. They were getting run over, especially later in the game, but now they're not. So I think that putting those 2 things together is a recipe for victory. If the offense can maintain some semblance of a decent offense, this team can go quite a ways. Now, the offense, even though they've got wins and they've done just enough to win, they haven't been impressive. They need to start holding up their end of the bargain.
It's time for the offense to get going. So says Roy Osborne over on Facebook. Bo and this whole offense, they haven't been impressive. That one game in Tampa was the only good offensive flash, other than not much of anything. I hear you, Roy. It was an ugly game. There wasn't a lot to be humming about if you're Bo Nix, but they stole a couple road games against two good teams. I mean, I'd say steal the New York game. The Tampa Bay game was just completely out of hand, and the Bucs didn't show up. Here's where I would push back against that just a little bit. The offense improved drastically in one area for me. And that area was offensive run plays called. Say what you want about their efficiency. Say what you want about which running back you want to go with. But finally, Sean Payton called 16 rushing attempts for a Broncos running back. It just happened to be Javonte Williams, who had a very good day, 77 yards, finally helped the offense get going, averaged 4.8 yards a carry. Tyler Bidet, scary injury, right? Had to be backboarded off of the field and the sideline. He obviously didn't practice today. Thoughts and prayers with Tyler, who sounds like he's doing well, Tom. JL Skinner, special teams guy, he's back today. He was limited at practice with an ankle. And then Josh Reynolds, finally have him as a full participant in practice. Maybe that can finally help him find some sort of a rhythm with Bo Nix, because outside of Cortland Sutton, it was really, really hard to get the receivers going on a rainy, wet day in New York.
Yeah. And I'm glad that Sean Payton finally decided to start running the ball more. It was necessary, but the thing of it is, I think they would have won that Seattle game had they not abandoned the run. I know it wasn't efficient. I know they weren't doing great, but I still think they would have won that game if they stuck to the run. And they stuck to the run in New York, and they weren't passing for anything. The defense was showing up. That was the right thing to do, and they ended up surprising everybody with a victory. I know it was the funny thing was I wasn't be able to watch it live, so I was listening to the radio because I was moving stuff. And I'm like, oh, they were driving down for that field goal at the end. I'm like, New York's, they're going to win this thing. And the freaking radio cuts out. So I had no idea. I was like, what the heck is going on? I can't hear the radio. I was getting all upset, but it was good to get home and be like, oh, they ended up missing that field goal. So it was interesting, but yeah, I'm happy with the run performance. It needs to get better though. I mean, it just does. They need to call more runs, and they need to be a little bit more efficient than they have been. And I think that'll help.
You're exactly right. There's a ton of area of improvement that they can in the run game specifically. I mean, I still think Jaleel McLaughlin is being used incorrectly. I want to see him on the alley, Tom, so bad. I talk about it all the time, every Wednesday night here on MHI, and just between the tackle style for him, I don't know how he's gonna hold up. Audric Estime could be back next week, at least off of IR, so maybe you look at that in the running back rotation. Obviously you're not going to have Tyler Bidet. Does leave you a little thin in terms of options in the running back room, but tight ends, we continue to wonder what's going on there. Greg Dulcich, coach was asked about Greg Dulcich today, and he's like, that's a good question. We do need to get him more involved in the passing game. And I thought it was a little bit interesting, right? Because I've already written his obit over at Mile High Huddle after week 2, saying you got to just wave the white flag on Greg Dulcich. It's just not working. But Bo Nix also needs to see his receivers a lot more, Tom, as you know. His quick decision-making usually does well for him. He needs to keep that. I don't know if Max Crosby's going to play this week. I'll ask Cease. Didn't practice today with an ankle, and Max Crosby did not play last week against the Browns with that high ankle sprain. But what are we going to do with Max Crosby, man? Even a bummed out Max Crosby on an ankle is probably the nastiest pass rusher the Broncos have faced 4 weeks into the season. Yeah,
I mean, well, that'll be a big test for Palczewski if he does go. I mean, that's going to be a premier pass rusher going against someone who's performed fairly well. So he's my guy, and hopefully he can rise up to the task. But I mean, I hope he plays. I would rather the Raiders be healthy and the Broncos win, so there's no excuses. If they win, they're like, oh, well, all our stars were out. We're trading Devontae Adams. We got to put up with the Raiders fans saying that kind of stuff. So
I would do it in a heartbeat. I really don't care. I don't care if they want to blame us for that. I don't care. It's time to snap the streak, Tom. We've been talking about it since January, man. The Raiders own the Broncos right now. It's time to stop that. And
Yep.
you're not going to flip the script in just one game, and it's not going to instantly become a rivalry just in one game.
Right.
But you have to win this. All the pressure's on the Broncos. I actually think they're favored in this one. It's not just because they're at home. But it's odd, man, because growing up, I was raised to hate the Raiders and I can't stand them. And even when we're still in public, sometimes I see a Raider fan and I have to bite my tongue though. I mean, they've owned us, Tom. What do I say? What do you say to Raiders fan? Hopefully you say that Bo Nix just owned your team. I'm hoping to see it, man. I don't know. It's going to be lofty, right? I'm not saying he's going to pull an Andy Dalton. What do I mean by that? Andy Dalton comes in, beats the Las Vegas Raiders in Las Vegas, 36-22. He went 26 for 37, 319 yards and 3 touchdowns for the Red Rifle and the Carolina Panthers. Bo Nix, I get you're not a seasoned veteran. You should be able to put up a couple tutties, 200 yards passing. That would be nice.
Yeah, I would like to see Bo Nix kind of come out of that shell, so to speak. Against the Raiders would be great, but at some point he's going to have to start making more plays with his arm. I mean, I'm not trying to knock the guy. He's a rookie. He's got to figure out how to play in the NFL as a starter. It's all new to him. So I'm not trying to knock him, but at some point he's going to have to put up more than 100 yards passing, 60 yards passing, whatever it is. Because at some point this team is going to have to rely on him, and he's going to have to show that he can do that. And to do it against the Raiders would be great. I would love to see it. I'd love for that kind of breaking out game to be this week, where he kind of slices and dices up the team, and the Broncos kind of cruise to victory.
That would be nice. Michael Ronquillo coming in here, weighing in on Facebook. Listen, guys, Pro Football Focus is giving Broncos players low grades despite playing well on the Broncos defense. I like to touch base on this, Tom, because I know how you feel, how I feel about it. You a little more strongly than me. I like to use PFF as a good resource. It's not everything. And to be honest, I really don't care about player grades because that's not my job. I don't have to figure out if they need to stay on the roster. I want to win football games, and it's something that the Broncos haven't done a lot of lately. Could care less, and I think they could care less right now. That's kind of nice to see. You don't see a lot of selfish players over on that defense, but Mike, I get that it's a sense of pride right now, right? Because it's kind of like that Hall of Fame discussion where the Broncos get dogged getting into the Hall and getting nominated. Well, the Broncos have been dogged on social media and on the internet and in general for so long that Broncos country is finally like, no, enough. Give us our due, man. Like the Broncos are winning football games. The pass rushing posse out there for Vance Joseph looks amazing. When did Vance Joseph start blitzing? Tom, can you? I'm looking at my guy Nick Kendall at Nick Kendall MHH over on X. He's got some nice. Nick loves a graph, right, Scott? I mean, there is not a graph or a scatter chart in the world that Nick Kendall hasn't seen and loved. And it's just one of these things where maybe that's an element to it. Vance Joseph finally decided, hey, we'll get the blitz going, a little bit of pressure on the quarterback, and then we can play pass coverage. I'll take it.
Well, he's able to get away with the blitz because the secondary is playing so dang well. I mean, I know you were talking about grades, and Pat Surtain's doesn't make the list, even though he's shutting down their best receiver. And I'm not going to badmouth PFF, but the thing of it is they have people putting their opinions on what they think is happening on the field, as opposed to just looking at the straight data. If you look at the straight data of what has happened, Pat Surtain's the best cornerback in the league, but he's not getting the grades. So that doesn't compute to me. So sometimes you got to put aside your the way of grading and say, look, this guy's doing awesome. It's just the facts are out there. So at some point you when it breaks down like that, you got to kind of make some changes. But I think, I really think you can blitz because you can get away with it. I mean, Riley Moss is playing well, McMillan's playing well, and the safeties have really, they're better than I expected. So I'm impressed with the secondary, and it's allowing them to blitz. I don't want it to come back and bite them. I remember back in 2006 or 2005 when they went to the AFC Championship game and Pittsburgh Steelers figured out the blitz, and they end up costing them the game along with 4 turnovers. But they just couldn't get to the quarterback. And at some points, you dive with the blitz, and I hope it doesn't come back to bite him on that.
Boom. Speaking of coming back to bite you, decisions for Sean Payton and this Broncos offense. David weighing in, very generous, $4.99 over on YouTube. With Mike McGlinchey potentially coming back one day, if Bo Nix starts to get sacks, what does Sean Payton do? Well, that's a nice problem to have, David. I mean, that means that the Broncos offensive line is continuing to play well. I'm not saying McGlinchey was the only problem. I know that he's been very underwhelming in his start to his career as a Denver Bronco here in year 2. A lot of penalties. You can't have it. A lot of MAs when you go back and you look at the film. But I don't know about Mike McGlinchey just yet. I don't want to be kicking the can down the road too long with trying to change this offensive line combo. Curious to see what this man has to say. Ladies and gentlemen, we are super pumped to have friend of the show, Cecil Lammey, back on. And Cecil, before we get started, man, congratulations on the new show, Denver Sports Station 104.3 The Fan, Dover and Cecil, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., Monday through Friday. I'd say welcome back to radio, but you never leave, man. 20 years of doing it on air. Congrats.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Not everyone has told me congrats, so I appreciate when my friends do that. And I got to say 2 things. One's for both of you. So Thomas, Luke, this one's for both of you. I got to be on the show more often. The second thing, this is just for you, Luke. We got to play PUBG.
You got to get some
All right,
PUBG.
got to play PUBG every day, but I'm excited. It's a 2-game win streak. We're learning more about Bo Nix and that locker room. I talked to Jonathan Cooper today. It's not only connectivity with that defense, been that brotherhood. He said we love each other for the offense as well. So you have this whole locker room that's bought into Bo. They've bought into Sean. And my God, can they play some good football defensively? Offense needs to come around.
Well, and speaking of Jonathan Cooper and love, one thing that I know Jonathan would love is a fat payday somewhere in the NFL. Maybe here in Denver, Colorado. He saw his draft classmates. Cecil, you were there with me, man. Shoulder to shoulder. We're watching that draft. George Payton maybe doing some victory laps early here in 2024, locking down Pat Surtain, who hasn't given up a touchdown, locking down Quinn Miners. Baron Browning's looking at his draft classmates saying, hey, I'd like a contract too. Is this something? Have you heard any whispers? Are the Broncos trying to work on anything with Baron Browning? Would you expect a deal to get done, or does he still have a lot to prove?
Yeah, and you and I were at that Senior Bowl where Quinn Miners, Baron Browning, and Jonathan Cooper were all there. And Coop is the one that gets picked in the 7th round. Browning earlier in that draft, and Miners, of course, 3rd round in Wisconsin Whitewater. And it's like, all right, do they do it like Derek Wolfe and Malik Jackson, where we're going to pay one of you, we're not going to pay both of you? I don't think there's a hometown discount like Derek Wolfe took, and he took that during the regular season. Malik Jackson got paid after that season. But I think looking now, you look to Coop. I didn't talk to Coop about his contract today, but did get to ask him just about Denver being his new home. You know, he grew up there in Ohio, and now Denver's his new home, and he loves it here. So with the way he plays, with the sacks that he's collecting, it's fantastic to see. Like the way this team, 2nd most sacks in the NFL, only behind Minnesota, and they're getting it done with multiple players. I believe the number is 10 players have a half a sack or more for that. Just think about that, guys. We've played 4 games, right? And 10 players have a half a sack or more for Vance Joseph defense. So I think Jonathan Cooper is the one that would get the contract before Baron Browning. And Browning, unfortunately, hurt again, hopefully back soon. And the Broncos will have to make that decision between those 2 teammates, because I don't think you can keep them both.
Yeah, and the injuries are just, you can't overlook the injuries to Baron Browning, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm with you on Cooper. Here's the big question. I think there was an even question from one of the viewers. So listeners, what happens with McGlinchey when he comes back off of IR with Palczewski playing the way he does? I mean, obviously there's a couple more games to go to figure it out, but he's looked impressive.
Yeah, Palcho's done a really good job. And what I love about him is he's got this youthful energy, like, oh my God, I got to play football. But he had 65 starts to Illinois. I mean, that's more than Bo had in college with the 61. And Palcho's first language is Polish. He's from Chicago, so he speaks Polish better than he speaks English. But he's fantastic. He's great to talk to. And again, he's like just super excited to be out there, but he's playing good football. Mike McGlinchey's your starting right tackle. When you come back, when he's back, Mike McGlinchey's your starting right tackle. It's partly the money. It's partly the coaching from Zach Strief that he's received. There was a trajectory. I think we got robbed of seeing it, because last year he was not good. He would even tell you that to a man. He's never shy about, talking about his bad performances. but McGlinchey was like starting to play better. And, Quinn was struggling at right guard. And even after the Seattle game, Quinn was really down on himself. And, covering for Luke Wattenberg there in the middle, that's a new thing you didn't have to do with Lloyd Cushenberry last year. So I think McGlinchey's your starting right. And then I did see Palcho in the locker room today. I didn't get to ask him, but I so want to ask him in a non confrontational way. I just want to ask him, how do you feel about playing left tackle? You have a future decision on Garrett Bowles to decide upon. And if you want to keep Garrett Bowles around, one, he's an older prospect. He always has been coming out of college, and he's a good man. He's a fine man. He's been fantastic for the Broncos, really rejuvenating his career. Because the first few years it was like, get this guy out of here, get him out of here. And then it wasn't, he got better. I got better, and it was good. It's good to see. Talked to Garrett today too. He's super energized. But you have a decision to make on your left tackle. Do you want to draft the left tackle in the draft next year? You're probably going to be picking near 20. If I were to guess, you might be in the playoffs. You might be just outside the playoffs, but this whole, you're going to have a top 10 pick. No, you're not. Travis Hunter, bye. There's no way in hell you get Travis Hunter. I know. I don't want to be down like that, but you're just going to be too far back to draft that. So you're going to take a tackle there. Are you going to take a pass rusher there? You're going to take Ashton Jeanty from Boise State, the running back. Maybe. But if Palcho can play left, again, I don't know that answer. And actually, Zach Streif would be the guy to ask that too. But I am going to ask Palcho, do you feel comfortable playing left? I just want to know. I want to know. No controversy. No, he's going to replace Garrett Bowles, but I want to know how he feels about that.
Well, maybe you can ask offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi, because sometimes I forget the man exists, to be honest with you, Cecil. And he's a Lombardi. And we forget about this man and his role. It's somewhat mysterious because I know he's working. I know Sean Payton has that staff working like a dog. Speaking of a dog, here's our guy, Keith Brugman, coming in. Check out these three guys, Luke, Thomas, and Cecil. Takes me back to a couple of years ago, hanging out with them on the berm during training camp. Good to see you all. Training camp's going to look a little different next few years, Cease. As you know, you're out there at practice today. They're tearing up the facilities. Right. The Walton Penner ownership group has spared no expense, and that's something that's near and dear to Broncos country's heart. God bless Mr. Bolin and the Bolin family. But it's Raider week, baby. Speaking of Mr. Bolin, the 1977 throwback threads come back this week, Cease. Are the players excited about it? Does it mean anything to them? Because you can't tell me it was just a coincidence that the 1977 threads come back on Raider week amid an 8-game losing streak to the Las Vegas Raiders, a team that you've never beat. I was at that last game. See, you were too. Oakland Raiders here in Denver, won by 1 point. Shelby Harris saved the game. Drew Lock's the quarterback. Philip Lindsay was the running back. It's been a long time. What are the players saying about Raider week, and do the uniforms matter?
Yeah, Garrett Bowles kind of poo-pooed it a little bit when asked about the uniforms, because he was like, it's just a uniform, but they're cool. Everyone else, and I mean everyone else, Coop, Troutman, Riley, Quinn, Zach Allen, all the guys I talked to today, love them. And not just a little bit. Troutman suggested they become the regular jersey. He's like, I like our new threads, but if this became the regular jersey, I wouldn't mind that. Guys love them. And the helmets were hanging up in the lockers today as they prepare for Raiders week. And it means a lot to these guys to wear that. What Coop said, and it's so fantastic. This is another reason why you guys got to pay Jonathan Cooper right now. You kidding me? This guy, fantastic. He said today, the legacy that helmet has and the players that came before him that wore that helmet, he has to honor them by playing really good football against the Raiders. How can you not love that?
Goosebumps.
How could you not love? I got goosebumps just retelling the story, man. It's amazing that a modern player would be able to look back on the history of that uniform. One, think it's cool because they are the coolest throwbacks. Maybe the Chargers and the baby blue. That one's pretty cool too. But amongst the coolest throwbacks of all in the NFL. But for Cooper to look back on that and say, I have to honor them. Wow. Those that came before. I just pay this guy. Greg Penner. Yeah. Where's the checkbook, Greg? Where's the checkbook? Get it out. Get out the checkbook, right? Make it happen and pay this guy because he understands the legacy and he wants to be here. He was asked today. Andrew Mason asked the question. I'll give him credit. Do you want to be part of this legacy? Because he talked about the standard and he said, do you want to be one of the people that helps the standard come back to what it was? And he said, yes.
Perfect. That's a perfect answer, because we before you came on, we were talking about it. It wasn't me. And I was like, I hope it means something to the players, the nostalgia, the Elway years, the Orange Crush. It has to. And to hear Jonathan Cooper say that, I mean, I love the guy's story. An incredible story. And, I'm like, I don't know if I didn't think he was going to get paid, but he's living up to he's definitely playing inspired football this year. So I'm loving the defense. I was not a Vance Joseph guy, but here I am loving the defense. Do you think that this defense is sustainable the way it's going as is?
The next 4 games for sure. November is a test. November, you have the Ravens. You have to deal with King Henry. In November, you have the Chiefs, right? And the Chargers will be a test. The Chargers are going to test you on the ground. But if you look at the upcoming games, and it's not, Chuba Hubbard's had some good games for Carolina, but it's like upcoming, you got to stop Zamir White. You should be able to do that. The Chargers will be a different story in this situation. New Orleans, I don't think Kamara's quite himself, a little bit banged up. So we'll see where his health status is there. And Sean Payton will be all up in his feelings when he's back in New Orleans, thinking about Cafe Du Monde or whatever. But it's like, okay, so coming up, I think you can sustain this. And I was the guy that said after the Dolphins game, they're going to fire Vance Joseph.
Yeah.
And they didn't. And he was under so much pressure. If they didn't get it done, Sean has an easy scapegoat. Hey, Vance isn't getting it done. But think about this. It's now Sean under the spotlight. There's nothing wrong with Bo Nix. Anyone says they're out on Bo Nix, I don't even want to hear him. I don't want to hear him talk. I don't want him to have a microphone. I'm revoking your rights of the First Amendment to take it away. Like, if you're out on Bo Nix, you just don't know football. There's nothing wrong with Bo Nix. He's a rookie and he's learning. What's wrong is not the Sean Payton system. I don't want to hear someone say that. It's antiquated. No, it's not. The Lions run it.
It's outdated, Cecil.
Right,
the game is past Sean Payton on.
Woo! And the Lions run the offense. They kick-ass double live Gonzo. So, like, the offense isn't outdated. Payton's play calling and the order in which he calls plays in his first 15 are off. It'd be helpful if you could run the damn ball. Did he find out something? Because he implemented zone concepts. I think Javonte came back last week because of 2 things. One, the wet track, he couldn't dance. Javonte, God bless him, but he gets the ball and he does this. You don't do that. You run straight to him through the hole. But then Sean, who is a gap guy, ran some trap plays against the Jets, but he also ran zone concepts. So he got Javonte moving laterally and then hitting the hole on time and on rhythm. You can get some pullers in front of him. The Raiders, I believe, are 30th against the run. Like, you can run it down their throat. So do we see back-to-back good games from Javonte? I hope so, because we need Sean Payton to help out Bo Nix. Nothing wrong with Bo. He's learning. He's a rookie, and you want to set him up the right way.
We are joined.
Bo. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Luke.
We're joined with Cecil Lammey. If you want to get over at Cecil on X, that's at Cecil Lammey, one half of Josh Dover and Cecil Lammey, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Denver Sports Station, 104.3 The Fan, Monday through Friday. If you didn't get enough Cecil on the radio, you can catch him on YouTube, Orange and Blue Today with Andrew Mason. Tom, before I get your question over to Cease, here's the thing, my take on Bo Nix. Has Bo Nix been an efficient quarterback? Maybe. Sure. Yes. No. I'm willing to hear the argument. Here's what Bo Nix does for me that I like. And Cease, Thomas, you guys all know Bo was not high on my list. Bo Nix seems like he wants to be a football player more than he wants to be a quarterback. What do I mean by that? He's unselfish, and he seems like he's willing to do anything to try to help his team win. If that means he needs to rush a bunch of times and lead the team in rushing, he'll do that. If rushing touchdowns only, he'll do that. Haven't scored a passing touchdown since week 3. I'm willing to hear that. And keep chucking it down the field and throwing interceptions while I do it. I appreciate the competitive nature from Bo Nix, but at victory against the Jets, one thing I noticed, at least watching in the locker room on YouTube and TV, his teammates seem happy to be with him. They seem excited. He seems like he can draw some level of energy out of his teammates, and they seem like they just want to give it all back to him. He's not a me guy. He's not Caleb Williams dancing by himself off of the field. He's celebrating with his teammates in the frickin' locker room of the New York Jets.
Yep. Yeah. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. It's all business with Bo. Bo's a little dry to talk to. When I was at the Senior Bowl and I asked about working from under center because it was not good, he got a little grumpy with me, and I love it. I love it, man. He takes his football very seriously. As someone, Tyler Columbus once told me, he's like, you take football way too seriously. I'm like, what's my job? It's my life. Like, I kind of have to. And I think Bo Nix is cut from that same cloth, that it's just all ball. He's a coach's son. And think of what he's done. First off, the confidence question's got to stop. I talked to my man Troy Rank today. I love Troy Rank. But it's like, we got to stop with this whole, did you lose confidence? He's not going to lose confidence in Bo. He's not losing confidence in Bo. Memo to everybody, my friends in the media, some not my friends in the media. He's not losing confidence in Bo. Bo had to leave Auburn, where his dad was a legend, and the coaching staff messed it up for him. I've talked to Auburn coaches about that. And he goes to Oregon. His first game at Oregon was terrible. And then he starts balling out. So I'm a firm believer in natural law. Luke, I'm going to get crunchy on you. The hair's not just for a reason, but I'm going to say this. Past performance can predict future results. Bo Nix will struggle, and then he'll learn and adjust, and then he'll excel. So struggle, improve, excel. That's exactly what Bo Nix has done. The Auburn tape, people act like at Auburn, he was some slappy that couldn't play. He wasn't that bad, okay? It wasn't Bo Nix following in his father's footsteps. His father was undefeated at Auburn.
Scott went to school with his dad at Auburn. Our producer at Scout Kennedy. Yeah, he went to school, and he's like, hey, man, I can tell you some stories.
There you go.
But no, it seems like Nix came from a great family. He's a competitive young man. And I've said on the show for a little while, and then we'll get to Tom, because I know Tom loves hearing me talk about Bo Nix. The jersey I still haven't bought yet. But I'm waiting, right? See, so you know that Gina's still mad at me for buying the Russell Wilson jersey. It's still hanging in the closet, day number 698 of that. Here's the thing, man. Bo's going to struggle. You've said it best on air and in print. It's not about 2024. It's about 2025 and beyond. But hot damn, they're making some noise, shocking the NFL world, at least the last 2 weeks. You can't beat this Raiders team here in Denver, Colorado, when the whole team is banged up. Man, what are the excuses going to be there?
Well, style points matter this week. Style points matter this week. Last week, I'm going to give you the weather. Last week, I was in West Virginia with the team, and the weather was terrible. I didn't see the sun for 4 days. So I'm going to give them the weather for last week. This week, you've got no excuses. You're against a weak defense. They're weak against the run. They're, I believe, 23rd against the pass. So they're weak there. You can put up the ball against them in multiple ways. And it's time to see Bo. I'm not saying 350 and 3 touchdowns, but if he has, let's say 225 and 2 touchdowns, I think that's very fair to say for Bo Nix. And this is the week that you do that. And he can do that. He's very capable of doing that. Now, I'm going to go do it. Now, what he needs is somebody to help Court, because Court's doing everything, and Dulcich isn't getting open. Reynolds is dropping passes. Nobody else is really helping in the passing game. I believe this week, perhaps they figure that out. Not exactly sure how, but against the Raiders, you're going to have options.
Well, my question is this: how confident is the team? I mean, I'm not down on Bo Nix. I know he's a rookie. He's got to learn. He's struggled. Mm-hmm. When that time comes where Bo Nix has to use his arm in order to win the game, where he's got to perform much better than he has in that with his arm, are they confident that he can do that, or is this he'll be able to do that in 2025?
Yeah, I think eventually they'll be confident in that. They're very confident in Bo. They like Bo. Just last week, because we saw the viral video of Bo trying to spit out the play, right? When Sean's in his ears telling this language, it's like learning Mandarin. And Bo Nix is a supercomputer. Like, he's going to get it. It's just going to take some beats and some rhythms. All of us in doing this, my very first show with a microphone and a podcast, I said, welcome back to the first show. Like, terrible, awful, but you get better. I got better. So it's like, Bo Nix will get better as well. So that's what you're relying on. That's what the team is relying on. When I asked Adam Troutman a week ago about, like, hey, that viral video and Bo, and how's his confidence in the huddle, he says he's very confident. He, when Sean gets him to play, he understands the concepts. He understands the responsibilities. A lot of the language, the terminology is just based on, where's your blocking coming from? What's your coverage, right? Like, what are you fighting against? What's your route combination? So he understands that. It's not like he doesn't know, no, he's got to look at the wristband or whatever. Like, he understands the concepts that are being taught to him. It's just going to take a little more time for him to get going. And I feel fully confident, just like the players do, that Bo Nix will do just that.
Boom, MHI. He is Cecil Lammey joining us today. Generous time, man. I don't know where you find the time. You're producing and working all these shows. One half of Dover and Cecil, 10 a.m. to 2 on 104.3 The Fan. You didn't get enough of him. Head on over to YouTube for Orange and Blue Today with Andrew Mason. Deanna Henry weighing in with a $50 super. Hey, Luke, we're finally catching the podcast. Really like Bo Nix. Love that we won the last 2 weeks. Need to win against the Raiders. The biggest story, at least from Las Vegas heading into this game, Cecil, it seems to be Davante Adams. For me, I'm terrified of Max Crosby. I'm terrified. He keeps me up at night. I'll be writing about him in my keys to victory like I do every Raiders game. Don't know if he's going to go. Didn't play last week, dealing with that high ankle sprain. But what is going on with Davante Adams? I saw him on the injury report today, just like you did when Broncos emailed us, right? But is it really an injury, or are these trade scenarios, do they have some life?
It's the internet is undefeated because the memes we're getting about Davante Adams are awesome. I love the Willy Wonka one where Gene Wilder's like limping and then he does the flip and then he's like up. Is like, yay. So when Davante gets traded to the Steelers, he's going to be fine. He's going to be more than fine. This hamstring injury is bull pucky. I don't think I can cuss on this show. So like, yeah, it's not real. It's something that he's just like, after spending the whole summer, I don't want to be traded. I don't want to be traded. I don't want to be traded. He has gone to the team and said, I want to be traded. And until then, you'll see a hamstring injury. Players have done this before. Emmanuel Sanders did it to John Elway before he was traded to the San Francisco 49ers. He went to Elway's office, and I've heard the story that he put his feet up on his desk and he was like, hey, you don't trade me. You know, my knee's not feeling real good. Now that's allegedly or per source. When you make stuff up, you just say per source. That means it's right, huh?
Always.
There you go. So it's like, okay, you look at what is happening with Davante Adams. It's not good. Whether it's the Cowboys, the Saints are, I believe, $95 million over the cap next year. So good luck with him reuniting with Derek Carr. Maybe the Jets, but the Steelers and the Cowboys are amongst the most interested. I know there's varying reports out there, but we'll see. I don't think we'll see Davante Adams in a Raiders uniform again. Also on Max Crosby, he said today he is going to try to play, but players always say that. So we'll see.
What's interesting though is it the Raiders organization or is it Davante Adams? Like what's caused this? I want out of here.
Yeah, it's the Derek Carr thing. It's that the fact they got rid of his college quarterback. That was supposed to be the combination, and they were together a year. And then they're like, we're moving on. And it's not like you're moving on and you've got a great option. You're moving on to Gardner Minshew, right? You're moving on to Uncle Rico, basically. So, like, Davante's had enough. He doesn't have much time left. NFL's pretty brutal business. And players, they got to get their money when they can. And they've got to get their rings when they can. So, Adams will go to some sort of contender. He would like the familiarity of a Aaron Rodgers or Derek Carr. I don't know how the Saints would pull that off. They're too far over the cap. Thanks to Sean Payton, by the way. So like, okay, where does Davante go? It's not going to be with the Raiders anymore.
What about like a team like Detroit? I don't know what their cap situation is or something like that, but one of those playoff teams, an NFC contender, something like Cowboys. It's interesting when we're talking Davante Adams. I'll miss him out there. Not enough to where I'm going to be shedding tears, but PS2 has just been a lockdown machine. See, so I don't know about you, but we're feeling pretty good on this show that the Broncos got that deal done before Pat Surtain came out and just started balling out of control. But it's Wednesday, October 2nd. Things are moving quick this year here in 2024. The trade deadline is going to be here before we know it. November 5th, NFL trade deadline.
Week 9, I believe.
Some folks are connecting Zach Wilson to the trade block still. I had thrown that out there the second I saw Tua get hurt. Can you see the Broncos being either sellers or buyers ahead of the trade deadline, November 5th, 2024? Obviously, Sean Payton doesn't let anything out of the building, but there are several positions of need that the Broncos still have, and they obviously have some healthy quarterbacks.
Yeah, and teams need that out there. It basically comes down to a decision on your future. Do you like Jarrett Stidham as the backup to Bo Nix? The locker room loves Jarrett. And, Jarrett has his own struggles, mainly with pressure. Like the way Bo doesn't get sacked, Jarrett gets sacked. Jarrett's got a little Russell Wilson to his game, and that's not great, Bob. So, like, are you comfortable with that? Or do you want to see more? Sean Payton, if there's one thing that he's done consistently, is he's taken project quarterbacks and he's turned them into something. Like he did that with Kerry Collins with the Giants, got him to a Super Bowl. You know, he's done that with
Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston,
30 for 30
in the league.
Yeah, he was a 30 for 30 guy. And then under Sean Payton, he was really efficient, really
Teddy
good.
Bridgewater. We remember him here in Broncos country. High school coach now. I mean, he's gotten these quarterbacks lots of lives.
Yes. So does Wilson want to stick around? Because Sean told Zach, I'm going to make you millions either here or somewhere else. So how does that happen? Maybe Zach wants to stick around, and maybe there's a smaller contract, kind of a 1-year thing where he can continue to be a backup and continue to learn from Sean Payton as he goes through his football rehab. But there's not 32 quality starting quarterbacks out there. And it's good to see guys like Sam Darnold make him, all the former Panthers quarterbacks, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, they're making plays. Of course, not a Panthers quarterback, but Zach Wilson, a Jets quarterback, and they're a disaster. So, like, yeah, maybe that's tempting for someone, but I think the price would have to be right. Even if they lose him next year, I don't think Sean Payton's willing to just give up on Zach Wilson. He really likes him.
Yeah, I don't. So if they could get something for him, I'd be fine with that. But I was totally wrong on Sam Darnold. I was like, that guy's not going to turn his career around. So maybe Zach Wilson will. But I would love to. I mean, Garrett Bowles is somebody who is probably not in the future of this team. So is that somebody that, I mean, if the Broncos are if they think they're a playoff contender, then all bets are off. But say that they're 500 and they're not going. Is Garrett Bowles a trade candidate at the trade deadline?
Yeah. Are you buyers? Are you sellers? Maybe Palcho can play left. Like there's a lot of questions there. With me, let's say, and it's too close and they've won too much already, which is a little weird because they're 2-2. But it's like, okay, would you necessarily be sellers at that point? And who could it be? Bulls because of the contract situation, yes, but that's also your starting left tackle. You'd have to feel pretty good about Palcho over there. You're not trading away Court. They didn't get enough offers, even though they had offers, including from San Francisco, from Baltimore, to get rid of Cortland Sutton. They really covet him. They've held on to him. So are you buyers or sellers? It's kind of shaping up, especially with the next 4 games. They could go 3-1 over these next 4 games. And I'll give them the one to New Orleans because Peyton will be up in his feelings. So if they go 3-1, now all of a sudden, what are you, 5-3, right? Can I do math? Wow. Is that right? Yeah, you're 5-3. You're in the playoff hunt. You're at the trade deadline, and you are being buyers. Yep. So what would you be buying at that time? It seems like inside linebacker is solved. Sternad played really well. Quan Alexander can play. I really like Zach Cunningham. The safety play, as weird as it sounds, you don't really miss Justin Simmons. I love Justin, but that's kind of the truth of the matter with PJ Locke and Brandon Jones playing that way. Defensive line is balling out. Would you add a tight end? Would you trade for a Kyle Pitts? Right? That's more something to me. Brandon Stokely suggested trade for T. Higgins. I wouldn't do that. He said give up a first rounder. I'm like, T. Higgins is not worth a first rounder. Not at all. T. Higgins and Cortland Sutton are kind of the same guy, in my opinion. So would you look to add a weapon? Would you look to add a running back, maybe a later round trade for a running back that's not getting as much work with another team? I'll just toss out Khalil Herbert because that's a backup running back that I love. So they're out there. But would the Broncos be more buyers or sellers? The way it's shaping up based on the next 4 games, it could be time to buy.
Boom. With Sean Payton, you never know what you're going to get. And we're wondering and hoping that we get the good Broncos team that we've seen the last 2 weeks on the road here in Denver, Colorado. Last one for you, Cease, on the way out. Favorite Broncos v. Raiders memory. I know for me, it may have even been a game that the Broncos lost. 2004, Smoke Dog Al Wilson, 4th and inches, snow game, absolutely stones the Raiders running back. I'm spacing the name right now, but Al Wilson, Mike Shanahan in the snow, Broncos playing in orange, a rarity back then in 2004. One of my favorite Raider memories.
Was it Wheatley? It might have been
Tyron Wheatley, former Broncos running back coach, right?
There you go. I will say this, even though I was alive because I'm old, I was alive for this. I don't necessarily remember it, but I've seen the replays or I've heard the tells of the stories. When the Broncos got good, we've been talking about the throwbacks, right? When they got good in 77 and they made the run, first off, when they beat the Steelers, who were a dynasty in the 70s. It's when Terry Bradshaw told Tom Jackson, like, it's never going to be the same here again. And it really hasn't been. And then I remember against the Raiders, when they beat the Raiders and they're on their way, right? This is a Super Bowl team. And Tom Jackson runs up to John Madden and says, "It's all over, fat man." I don't think you can beat that for my money. Again, I'm the old guy in this conversation, but like for my money, it's all over, fat man. All due respect to John Madden, of course.
Absolutely
awesome.
love it. Tom, how about you? Favorite Broncos v. Raiders memory?
Oh man, I love the time period when Shanahan was PO'd about his firing and losing that $200,000 that Al Davis never paid him, and he just went out and won almost every game against the Raiders. No matter, it doesn't matter if the Broncos were Super Bowl contenders or not, they were beating the Raiders. I love that time period. That was a great. It was perfect for me.
Telling John Elway to throw the ball at Al Davis's head, right? There was another good one in the chat. Like, what about Aqib Talib versus Michael Crabtree? That was a great memory. That sideline fight, by the way, and Michael Vernkio on the way out. Great show tonight, Thomas and Luke with Cecil on the Mile High Insiders. Go Bo Broncos. He is Cecil Lammey. Get at Cecil over on X at Cecil Lammey. Catch him 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. every Monday through Friday on his new show, Dover and Cecil, over on Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan. If you didn't catch him there, head on over to YouTube for Orange and Blue Today with Andrew Mason. Cecil, a lot of fun, man. Thanks for stopping by the show, brother.
Thank you.
I appreciate you both so much. Thanks for having me on.
Boom. This is the way. And there goes Cecil Lammey. Man, I am feeling energized. I am feeling excited. It is Raider week. We had an awesome conversation with Cecil. If you missed it, you can head back into the podcasting realm and go ahead and play it at your convenience. That's one of the nice things about pods these days, Tom. I know you were saying you're listening to the radio on the game or the game on the radio the other day. It's nice to be able to listen to podcasts at your own convenience, to be able to rewind, to go back. I'll be doing this. So much juicy info from one of the Broncos' best insiders, man. A lot of fun to chop it up with our guy, Cease.
Yeah, it was a great time. I mean, it's always great to have Cecil on, and he's right. We should have him on more because he's got the info. It's good to know that insider take, and I enjoy having him on every time.
A lot of fun. We are going to save Broncos game day predictions, at least Tom and I, for Friday. You can read about them over at milehighhuddle.com, our roundtable picks. Tom, I'm doing horribly at picking Broncos game. I think I should just stop because I think I got one right. I think I'm 1-3 right now. Where are you sitting?
I'm 2-2 now. I got the first two right, got the second two wrong, which is, I mean, the two that I'm the most surprised about went the wrong way.
Scott, how about
the right way for the Broncos?
How about you, Scott? 2-2, 2-2 with Scott. You, Scott, and Nick, man, you guys are always hanging out together. I'm out on a limb. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Taking those L's, man. But like, I'm glad I picked the Broncos to lose the last 2 weeks, and I'm so happy that they won. I'm so glad to be wrong. It's truly a tale of two teams, and we're suffering here in Broncos country, Tom, because we have to suffer through this with the CU Buffs too. We have no idea which team is going to show up. It's either going to be a boat race or lose by one possession, or it's just these odd things. I'm hoping Cecil was right. I'm hoping Jonathan Cooper. How about that? Jonathan Cooper saying it means something to him wearing these 1977 threads. I mean, that gave me goosebumps when he was talking about that, because as you know, Tom, sometimes it's tough for younger generations to connect with generations who aren't even around anymore, let alone in the building. It's connectivity. It's being able to relate. But if Cease is telling us that the Broncos are getting fired up to debut these uniforms and that they should be the permanent uniforms, man, yeah. I'm here.
I'm loving it. And I'm loving the defense, right? The defense has been carrying this team for the most part, especially in the two, the wins, but they really have been carrying this team. And to go back to 77 with the Orange Crush defense, it just and have Jonathan Cooper fired up about that. That's cool. That's really is cool, because I mean the Orange Crush defense was one of the greatest defenses of all time, and to see the Broncos going to be honoring that, hopefully with some incredible defense against the Raiders, will be perfect.
It will be perfect. Broncos country. What a fun show, man. Wednesday, October 2nd. We got into some Bucks Jets leftovers. Denver Broncos are hosting the Las Vegas Raiders. Tom, I'm not going to ask for a score. I'm just going to ask an open-ended question, maybe. Is this the week that the Denver Broncos finally beat the Las Vegas Raiders?
Yes, this definitely is.
I
Yep.
agree. If that does not happen, we are having an entirely different conversation next Wednesday night here on MHI, where the NFL is like a box of chocolates. You just don't know which Broncos team you're going to get.
That's right.
Maybe we need to start ending the show on that note. Broncos country, a lot of fun. Really appreciate you guys and your kindness over in the chat. Head on over to the mothership, MahaHuddle.com. Read our latest, including an article. An ESPN Insider is linking Zach Wilson to 2 potential teams. Chad has the latest over there. Power rankings, Dylan has those up. The Broncos are climbing up, up, and up. Absolutely love that. A big tip of the cap to Scott, who kept us on track and afloat tonight. If you'd like to reach out to Scott, that's at Scout Kennedy over on X. Don't forget Broncos for Breakfast with Nick Kendall at Nick Kendall MHH. If you'd like to reach out to Tom, that's at Thomas Hall NFL over on X. Yours truly at Luke Patterson LP. Head on over to X and give this pod a follow also. It's come to my attention, Tom, that we need to get our numbers up. We need to beef it up, and that's at MHI_pod. Tom, another fun show, man.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it's always great to have somebody in here to kind of mix it up a little bit. I mean, we talk with each other all the time, so it's great to have someone else mix it up with us, but a knowledgeable person who has insider information, true insider information that can bring us stuff that we don't know about. So I loved it, and I hope the listeners really enjoyed having Cecil on, because it was great.
Yeah, he's all right. You know, we'll probably have him. We'll probably have him back, man. Good friend of the show. We appreciate everybody. Broncos country. Let's beat the Las Vegas freaking Raiders. I hate them. This is the way.
This is the way.